Now, our first panelist is a seasoned mechanical engineer and an operations leader with over 3 decades of experience across aerospace, automotive, and supply chain industries. He completed his bachelor's at the College of Engineering, Gandhi, Anna University, and his master's at IIT Madras. He has held senior leadership roles at Hindustan Aeronautics, Lucas TVS, ThyssenKrupp Automotives, and TVS Supply Chain Solutions, and now contributes his deep industry insights as a profession of practice, advisor, and operation auditor. Please welcome Mr. Karthikeyan to the stage. Can I have a huge round of applause for him? Our next panelist is a veteran healthcare leader with nearly 3 decades of experience leading major hospital groups across India in marketing, operations, and growth. He holds an MBA and has added qualification of certification courses in healthcare from Harvard University and IIM Bangalore. He has played a key role in building and scaling institutions like Wockhardt, Yashoda, Narayana Health, Oasis Facility, and now KIMS Hospital, while also contributing as a visiting faculty across leading management and public policy institutions. Please welcome the Chief Operating Officer of KIMS Hospital, Mr. Sudhaker Jadhav, on the stage. Then our next panelist is an Hyderabad-based technopreneur with 20 plus years of experience in software and technology in RFID, e-commerce, SET, fintech, and AI in healthcare. He has previously served as a CTO of PayU India and led the launch of X-Ray Setu, a union government recognized AI-driven COVID response app. He is JEE Top 100 rank holder, has computer science degree from IIT Kanpur and Georgia Tech, and an MBA from ISB Hyderabad. He is currently serving as the co-founder and chief technology officer for 101 GenAI, a health AI startup. Please welcome Mr. Prashanth Aditya Susarla to the stage. Joining them as a moderator is a global leader and chief executive at Apollo's Global Workforce Development Initiative, who focuses on solving healthcare talent shortage by building scalable upskilling and mobility platforms. Please welcome Mr. Anshum Sinha to the stage.
We'll talk a bit more about the learnings from the first panel, which talked about the opportunities available from an education perspective. And then we have the panel of experts that is from the industry side, and we can understand from them what will be required as when you are ready to step into the workforce market, what choices you have to make, what options are available. But before we get into that, last year, around the same time, I was in an event organized by LinkedIn. And my most significant takeaway from that session was an analytics that they presented, which mentioned that the labor force market of the future will be more focused towards the skills that you have rather than the degrees or the titles that you come with. So if you think about the perspective, my generation looked or aspired towards the degrees and the titles, whereas what LinkedIn was saying is that as you get into the next half a decade of the future, you have to think more about skills. So we heard the first panel talk about or mention the skills related to communication, people management, interpersonal skills. Those have become really important as the evolution on the technology side is taking place. So with that perspective, let me start with my panel here. Obviously, as you see in the back on the screen, there's a distinct representation from engineering, from healthcare, as well as the ever ubiquitous AI, the elephant in the room always, right, in conversations these days. So let me start with you, Mr. Karthikeyan. And please, panelists, think about the next 5-year horizon when this audience would be ready to take that decision or prepare for themselves as to what they need to do from higher education perspective, labor force perspective. What do you think they should be aware of when they take those decisions, when they're ready to take that step?
Good morning, everybody. With my 40 years of experience across aeronautical, automotive supply chains, I can say one thing very confidently. Even though the picture outside may look confusing, engineering, core engineering is not disappearing. It's rather reinventing itself as it has done many times before in the past. Now let me start with aerospace. With India being considered as one of the topmost markets where aviation industry is going to, see a big change, big development, our aircraft fleet is going to triple in the next 10 years or so. There will be a need for core aeronautical engineers, be it design, manufacturing, maintenance, or testing. Not just the aircraft alone, but even the drones and the space systems. So I'm glad that a job in aeronautics is no more a dream. It's a reality, and many engineers are required with skill sets. Moving to automotive, well, the car that some of you may be designing in 2030 or beyond will no more be just mechanical machine. It will be more electrical, software driven. And so, will there be a need for mechanical engineers? Yes, definitely. The ones with that core fundamental topped up with the knowledge to read software, to work on controls, to understand, the systems, the brakes, the battery systems. Yes, there will be a need. Lakhs and lakhs of jobs are there on the horizon. Now in the infrastructure, we all know Viksit Bharat. The grand vision of fully developed country by 2047, the country is investing heavily, massively in projects, roads, railways, green projects, renewables, and whatnot. The EPC by itself, many estimates say that it will bring about requirement of 25 million, that's 2.5 crores jobs or more in 2030 and beyond. So once again, the core engineering is there. It's quite alive and kicking. Please do not get carried away by the trends. Do your research properly, get to know the actual facts, and make the right decision. The core always remains. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, Mr. Jadhav, obviously, as we are all seeing that healthcare has become a new sunshine industry, right? Over the last half a decade, obviously, India went through its adoption of software or software market of the world or development market of the world. Now, as we see healthcare domestically is becoming a big engine for growth. What do you think the generation of tomorrow should prepare for in terms of the skills or the competencies that they need to be aware of?
Sure. Thanks, Anshum. So, just to put things in perspective, I think while there are new horizons, there are new opportunities coming up in different segments, but I think healthcare is something which is going to. It's always a sunrise industry. That's what I keep telling, because as long as you have humankind on Earth, you need healers, you need doctors, you need the entire allied healthcare professionals. So from that perspective, if I have to break down certain numbers, I think today in India, we are talking about 2 million doctors. We're talking about 3.5 million nurses, and we're talking about close to 1.5 to 2 million allied healthcare professionals. Is this enough? Definitely the answer is no. because for a 1.4 billion population, I think there is in next probably next 10-15 years, we are looking at a huge number of close to about 1.5 million more healthcare professionals which are required to kind of cater to this entire ecosystem, right? So now there are different opportunities. I think government has done a great job as far as doctors are concerned, because I think we have a fair balance when for MBBS graduates today. We are talking about close to 1,20,000 seats per annum basis. But there is again a discord between a graduate who is passing out from every year. So for 1,20,000 seats, if you look at the post-graduation seats, I think there is a huge discord. There are just about 60,000 or 70,000 seats. That means every year there are about 50,000 seats, 50,000 MBA graduates who don't get into that post-graduation level. And unless you hone certain skills from pure clinician perspective, you'll not be able to kind of, treat the patients. I think that is the gap there. But I think healthcare is just not about doctors. It's majorly the entire burden is on the other non-clinical healthcare workers, such as your technicians, such as your paramedical force. I think that is what I'm trying to tell, that there is a huge gap, almost to a tune of about million to 1.5 million. So I think that is where a lot of young people, there are great opportunities. AI is evolving. AI which is going to help clinicians to take right decisions. I think these are some of the segments which I think in coming years we need to focus on.
Okay, I think that's a great segue to come to you, as Mr. Jadhav just mentioned AI. That landscape is evolving so rapidly, right? It's mind-boggling sometimes just to keep pace with what's happening, and let alone take a long-term decision as to what do I need to do from that perspective, right? What do you think is the value creation that's happening from the field that you come from, so that we can decide where do we want to invest from a career perspective and take that step?
Thanks a lot. So, just like with every other technology wave in the past, right? So, access to technology has become easier. And so, the currency is no longer that I'm able to write a software program and make it do things. So, instead, my advice would be to shift the focus to solving problems, focus on the problems that need solving. And the rapid rate of change in technology is actually a blessing in disguise. It's a good thing because you have now very powerful technology at your disposal to experiment faster, to generate hypotheses and ideas and validate them faster. So in your colleges, what I would encourage students to do is be bold and be unafraid to work on really exciting projects which can solve real hard problems, right? Like don't just focus on the so-called quote unquote academic projects. Feel free to pick projects that are relevant to the industry. Use modern technology at your disposal and go for the moon. So that's one thing. Be bold, right? And that fearlessness also automatically will engender in you the capacity to constantly adapt and relearn. So you will still be good for the long term. It's just that you need to be adaptable and you need to be very focused on experimentation and driving results. So that should be the focus.
Thank you. I hope you all are using the the QR code to ask your questions as well. We'll come to that in 5 minutes or so. Going back to you, Mr. Karthikeyan, and we were discussing this in the holding room right back there. Because of the expansion of the computer engineering side of it, right? A lot of talent. While there are multiple streams of engineering which have always been there, a lot of talent sort of went towards that, probably because of the opportunities that are available. So that's one perspective. The other is, culturally, we in India think of that if you don't land a job in a dream company, then you have not done enough academically, right? Now, given the one perspective is diluting very rapidly because of the advent of AI, but the cultural aspect is not diluting that rapidly. That's a dichotomy, right? How do you advise our students to manage that?
Well, this myth has always been there. But one thing I can tell you, the first job doesn't actually define your entire career. The first job is just the starting point. What's more important, rather, is how you learn, what you learn, and how you apply, how open you are to constant learning in the first 5 to 10 years of your career will make a huge impact. To take my personal case, for example, when I joined Hindustan Aeronautics Limited and then switched over to other companies, and then I had an assignment in one of the MNCs. At those points in time, they were not really the dream jobs, but they became meaningful possibly because of what I learned and applied there. So my advice is, do not be too hung up on the brand name, the logo of the company. Be rather inquisitive to know about what the business is, whether it aligns with your interest, and be ready to give all your best. I know of many people who started off in small companies, but they made it very big in their careers. They are on the national and even international scene. Some of my own friends, classmates are there as examples. While I'm saying this, the other part is also true. People who started off with big companies, the so-called dream jobs, they stagnated at some point because they refused to be open to learning when the change was happening, when the world was evolving. So it's how adaptable you become and how open you are to learning is what matters more. There's nothing called there's a complete myth about the first job defines your career. That's my advice to the youngsters.
Thank you. Going to you, Mr. Jadhav, I think healthcare is probably one of the very few industries where, because there is a human life involved, right? You have to take, which I'm sure you do day in and day out, you have to take business decisions that are as important from a business efficiency perspective as they are from empathizing with the lives that are involved. How do you balance that?
I think extremely important question. I mean, that's what I think I've been doing last 25 years. So while when we talk about a medical consumer, let's imagine a patient who comes to the hospital. I think they're not coming there. They're coming fundamentally out of their necessity. I mean, nobody would like to go to a hospital, right? I mean, given a choice between going to a movie mall or a hospital, people would choose the first two. But hospital is something where you are actually forced to go there, and the patient's attendants are emotionally charged because they are worried, they're anxious, while each one of the healthcare workers in the hospital has to be extremely empathetic towards handling this patient. And at the same time, I think on the other hand, as rightly asked by Anshum, that the balance sheet is also extremely important. How do you balance this? I think that's definitely the balance between science and art. I mean, it's art and as well as science. I think we need to look at the efficiencies. We have technology backing up the efficiencies. How fast would you be able to kind of get the patient out of the hospital? We have certain metrics such as your average length of stay. You have certain metrics such as average revenue per bed, etc. But this language, I don't think the patient understands. What patient understands is how fast I'm going to get cured, how fast I'm going to get out of the hospital, and what is going to my clinical outcome. I think that is something which, you are actually speaking two different languages, while internally there is a lot of business language which happens. But for a patient, I think that has to be very empathetic, and of course, end of the day, patient would look at the patient outcome. But I think having said this, maintaining that fine balance is extremely important, because you just can't do charity because you have to have your nose out of water at any given point of time. And then in India, it's I mean, most of the hospitals got dubious distinction that when you go to a hospital they loot the patients. Not very true. Let me just reiterate this sentence is not very true. I think the doctors, the healthcare workers actually do whatever best we have to do in order to save the lives of the patient. It's just that this industry is actually reactive. We are not proactive. Until unless there is something happens to us, then we go to the hospital. I don't think anybody sitting here would actually take an annual health checkup and keep a tab on your health. Extremely important. And I'm sure if I ask you a question, how many people here would have a health insurance? I'm sure 50% will not have. But at the same time, if I ask you a question, how many people have who have a car and who have an insurance? I'm sure 100% would give that answer. So I think these are some of my points.
So other than acquiring skills and competencies, get health insurance as well. It's equally important, right? Yeah. Moving on to you, Mr. Susarla. So you're the only entrepreneur in the panel right now. And we have come a long way in terms of our career decisions from looking at it from a job-only perspective, primarily across the country, to now looking at entrepreneurship also as a viable alternative, right? What would you advise? I mean, is it that when you think about entrepreneurship, you have to take the plunge, or can you do that even while working in a job? As a technologist, you can think differently and be an entrepreneur as well.
So, the founder mindset, as they call it, is applicable irrespective of whether you are legally a founder or not. A founder is just a legal status, right? You're doing your college project. You want to make your group succeed. You want the project to succeed. You will do everything to use the knowledge, the resources available at your disposal, and you're constantly thinking about the success of your idea and of your group. That is founder mindset. So if you're working like that, you already are displaying the entrepreneurial mindset. So what is the difference between being an owner and being a founder, right? So you can be an owner anywhere. You may be working in an MNC, but you can own your problem. You can own the outcomes. You can do whatever it takes to make that problem go away. Or whatever is your problem area of responsibility, you have to make it go away for your customers, right? Do whatever it takes. That's what a founder also does. The only difference is really just the legal status and some material things. But in the long run, job satisfaction doesn't come from legal status or material things. It comes from having taken ownership and delivered results, right? So you can, espouse the founder mindset wherever you are.
Makes a lot of sense. Any questions from the audience? Vivek? Yep. The first question is, what are the options in AI for science students?
That's a brilliant question. This is one of the things that keeps me up at nights in my own company. Evals. So when machine learning was simple, evaluations were relatively simple. The data followed a certain distribution, was relatively easy to understand. There were rules by which you could, very specific rules by which you could design evals, very well-defined metrics which are available out of the box from standard libraries, and you call it a day and it's done, right? So evals was pretty simple. Now it's more messy. Now we are talking about real-world interacting agentic systems, and the real world is super messy. The data is never structured. It's never uniform. It keeps changing. So designing an eval system requires actually a very scientific bent of mind. At 101 GenAI, we are actually hiring only PhDs for evals. But I believe that that's an area where younger students, you don't need that degree as a PhD, but if you have that mindset that you want to go deep into a problem, you want to look at the data from multiple angles, you're able to think critically, you're able to problem solve analytically. I think agentic evals or AI evals in general requires deep understanding of the science, the underlying phenomenon that the agent is working with.
Thank you. Very interesting question. Any of you, if you can, please. How do I scale myself from a normal student who is studying at a really average level to an elite level problem solver? Apart from solving problems, what else can I do to become an CTO at a company? That's pretty specific. Any of you, if you can.
Okay, let me go for it. So there are two questions there.
Yeah.
Read the book. There are two books that I'd recommend. Easy reads. Malcolm Gladwell's 10,000 Hours and The Infinite Game by Simon Sinek. Practice makes perfect. Muscle memory, all of those things, right? So keep solving problems. Don't be afraid of failure. If you look at elite athletes, they have not gone there because one day somebody said, I'll pick up a bat or a racket, right? There's been a hard grind of several years. They've lost several matches, tournaments, but every time they've learned something about themselves and they've become better. If you want to become an elite problem solver, the only thing you ought to be doing day in and day out is solve problems. There's nothing else, right? Your singular focus should be on solving problems. The second question was how to become a CTO. Now, once you are good at solving problems, the answer is very simple. How do you make others very good at solving problems, right? And you keep doing that over and over again, and you'll make for a good CTO. Very simple answers.
So the key skill is solving problems, right?
Key is still solving problems, always.
I'll just top it up. Like Prashanth said even earlier, it's the mindset which matters, right? How do I become a founder? If you're doing a project and if you're constantly thinking about improving and thinking about how to make it succeed, then you're already having a founder mindset, right? It's the same that is applicable for a CTO, for an aspirant CTO. If you're already thinking about solving problems using the systems that are available, you're already having the mindset of a CTO. It's a matter of time when you actually get the designation. It's the mindset which matters more.
Thank you. Makes sense, yeah. This one actually mentions your name. So it says, Jadhav, sir, what about Pharma D and veterinary science?
Again, I think pharma D, there is always this, a bit of issue in terms of, so yeah, I mean, of course, they are definitely helpful to the entire ecosystem of healthcare. But the acceptance of Pharma D as a duty medical officer or let's say even a junior doctor is always debatable, right? I mean, though I think there are Pharma D guys who have spent about 5 years, they do get a doctor degree in front of them. But I think they definitely have huge scope in terms of getting into administration, getting into the stream of operations. Probably you can see yourself as a CEO or CEO for sure. But clinically, I don't think there is always this a gate in between them and the so-called qualified doctor actually. So that is something which a Pharma D graduate has to be aware of, right? I think he has to progress and then get to do a management degree so that there are better off options on the management side.
Got it. I'll probably read out a couple of more questions and then start wrapping this up. This was again related to AI. It says the AI is actually giving data from the web in a meaningful manner, but how can we trust data or suggestion? The reason to asking this question nowadays, so much of data in the web may be outdated or mixed.
Yeah, so again, I'll try to simplify the problem statement a little bit, right? So if you look at AI, the origins of AI, search was always the problem, the defining problem statement for AI, right? So AI problems in the beginning were all about finding your way in a warehouse from one corner to another, avoiding obstacles. So it was always a search problem. So you were using Google earlier and you were putting together information from various sources and you were synthesizing, let's say, your project report or your solution, right? What AI has done is just kind of made the problem of gathering that information and presenting it to you easier. Your curation of that knowledge and what you take out of it, how you interpret it, how you act on it, that still hasn't changed. That hasn't gone away. Those are those fundamental skills that still remain. An additional fundamental skill that you must add is verifying. And that's why we always say the human in the loop is extremely important. So even at 101 GenAI, our thing is that we are not going to build AI, for example, to take over jobs or anything of that nature, right? It's only to provide information cleaner, better, richer, but ultimately there is a decision maker who has to act on that information. So that's how you fact check. You are deeply grounded in the education, in the underlying science, and so you know what is coming back at you, whether it is correct or wrong. Right? You need to have that judgment.
I think I would like to share certain use cases from a AI perspective in healthcare. I think that is going to be the future for sure, because let's talk about simple your CT scans or maybe ultrasound. So there are now AI driven. That means the machine has been learning over a period of time, scanning thousands and millions of patients, right? So they have this huge database. And then the minute you get into the scan machine, the machine is actually predicting, and the accuracy is almost close to 99%, where the doctor can actually take a quick decision. So that's how AI fundamentally works. The second use case is on more on reproductive medicine side, where actually embryologists use a lot of AI models nowadays, and that actually helps them to pick up the best embryo before transfer. So I think I can give you n number of use case from healthcare perspective as far as AI is concerned.
Great. Last one. What are the best courses to opt after giving our JEE examination? Would you like to take that?
Yeah, there's no one direct answer to this because a few factors have to be considered, right? There's a natural inclination in somebody towards a certain interest. They have to be respected. Then do your research. There are opportunities in the core engineering sector, as I said earlier. Instead of being, chasing the trends, if you can choose one area where your interests align and then develop deep knowledge into that area, and also develop certain, at least the lingo that pertains to other areas. Like, for example, I call this a T model. You take one subject and go deep in that, acquire your skills, develop your knowledge, but also have certain appreciation so you can possibly empathize with other experts. You can understand, you can talk with the software engineers, with possibly the system developers, so that you use those resources available to make your subject shine, or to get your projects on course. So the idea is, do your research and don't run away from core engineering subjects. These jobs are very real. They have always been there are always been requirements for the core engineers. It's how we understand the requirement. Like I said, in India itself, there are so many opportunities. Talking about overseas, we know about the UAE, more than $200 billion investments coming in the next 5 years. They require core engineers, be it civil, be it electrical, be it mechanical. The Australia needs good mining engineers. So there are requirements all over. So just delve deep into what your interests are, develop the skill, be curious to learn. It's not just the education ends on the final year in college, right? Be open to learning, because the world is evolving very fast. So what was the latest yesterday is no more there in technology. In technology, possibly there are changes, but the core fundamentals, there's no expiry. They always remain. So be confident that what you choose to make your career in, you develop the skills, you develop the knowledge, and add or top it up with the other things that are evolving around it.
Thank you. I think that's a great conclusion note. Mr. Jadhav, would you like to add a statement or two as a conclusion?
Yeah, I think I would definitely second Karthikeyan because these are all core principles, right? I mean, being grounded, being humble, positive attitude. I think that's what I keep telling a lot of young people who actually come in for their first job. That first thing is you need to put all your degrees, put all your qualifications outside before entering the workplace. So that first, that's the second thing which I keep telling them is, I think first 2 years fundamentally it's investment for learning, right? You need to learn because ability of a young guy or a person, I think post their education is only 10 years. After that, there is a plateau on your learning ability. You can't learn. So I think your initial stage of workplace, I think first 5 years to 10 years is just about learning. Don't think what is my designation. Don't think where am I heading to. I think if you are able to kind of achieve that learning in those first initial years post your college, I think that's extremely going to be beneficial throughout your life.
Thank you. Did you say?
Yeah, I'll echo the thoughts, right? I finished my bachelor's in 2002, waited 7 years and then did my, management from ISB, waited another 12 years and then did my master's from Georgia Tech, right? And I might just do another degree a few years down the line, who knows? So you don't have to do all of your courses right now. There's 24 hours, you have to stay healthy, you have to do several things. You have a lifetime ahead of you. You don't need to solve, pick up everything to learn right away. Pick the things that you're most interested in, work for a few years, figure out what is motivating you, what is keeping you interested, drop a few subjects, add more, right? So it's a long life, enjoy it. It's not just these 3-4 years. You will be studying for the next 25, 30, 40 years if you want to have longevity in your career. So don't worry about it. Just go with the flow. Yeah.
Great. So if I have to conclude it for you, think about deep skills or deep knowledge, right? As Mr. Karthikeyan said, develop skills which are more human in nature and not just the technical skills that you will get through your educational curriculum, and enjoy life, right? Thank you so much.
Think of it more like a marathon and not short hauls, right? Like Prashanth said, there are 30, 40 years ahead. So you have many, many opportunities. Be open and be curious. Sorry.
No. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.